Are you drowning in a flood of emails? Does it feel like you're processing email all day long and you can never catch up? I have 3 tips that will help you process email more efficiently and lighten the burden today on Tuesday Tech Training. Hi, my name is Jennifer Stewart. I'm the owner of Gateway Productivity and I'm a digital productivity trainer. Today on Tuesday Tech Training, we're going to talk about some email productivity tips, things that can help you manage the barrage of emails that are constantly coming at you. What we'll cover is setting limits on your email, so knowing when your email's starting to get out of control and you need to give it more time. Then we'll cover email etiquette and subject lines. So this is how you email with other people and having a physical conversation about what that looks like and utilizing your subject line to the fullest to get the most out of the email. Lastly, we'll talk about email newsletters and ads and things that you can do to decrease the amount coming in or have a better system to keep track of those. Beware the overwhelming inbox. You all know what it feels like. It looks like this, where there's tons of emails. It feels so overwhelming. You don't feel like you can get to it all. Maybe you have tons of unread messages that are in here, and you just scroll and there's no end to it. Instead of letting all of the unread messages pile up, there's a way to prevent this. Think right now about how many emails start to feel overwhelming to you after a time. And you can think about this from the 2 different perspectives we talked about in the previous video of should you use email folders. If you're someone who's going to use email folders, then you may want to have almost an inbox zero feeling where there's not hardly any emails in there. So your answer will look different to someone who is not using email folders and chooses to keep most of their emails in their inbox. The overwhelming feeling will come from different places, but think about what makes you overwhelmed when your email feels like you just can't get to it all and it's too much for you to handle. What makes it that way? Take a step back and think about that answer. For someone who uses email folders, that might be the overwhelming feeling of having to scroll to get to all the rest of the messages, and you feel like there's things you're forgetting about. For someone who's not using email folders, it may be the unread messages that are overwhelming you, that you have to scroll to get to all of the unread messages because you're leaving the other messages in there, which is no problem, but you need to still get to those unread messages. And if they're starting to overflow, then you know that there's a problem. And if you're not sure if you want to use email folders or not, go back to my video on should I use email folders, and that will guide you through your decision. But back to the topic at hand, what is overwhelming about this? Get that answer, because what you want to do is set limits. What this means is deciding what that overwhelming point is and making sure that you don't get there and putting extra time on your calendar to work on email when you're getting close. So you need to know what that limit is in the first place. So again, for someone who's using folders, that may be when you have to start to scroll to see all of the emails. That's the point when you're getting close to that you want to add an extra half hour or something like that to work on your email a little bit more and dig into it. For someone who's not using folders, it might be when you have to start scrolling to see your unread messages. And that's usually the one that I recommend because it is the most visual to most people. They can understand that when you have to start to scroll, you may lose things that are below the fold, as they say, the below the bottom of your screen. For some of you, it may be an actual number that resonates more. You don't want to have more than 25 emails in there. You don't want to have more than 50 emails in there. For those who are not using email folders and keeping all of it in your inbox, you may have a number of unread messages. You don't want to have more than 50 unread messages or something along those lines. Think about what makes the most sense for you. And again, set that limit. And when you're getting close to it, give yourself some extra time to process extra email. The next tip is considering email etiquette and use in your subject lines to the fullest. Let me explain what that means. What I mean by email etiquette is that the more emails you send, the more you're likely to receive. Be thoughtful about if an email is even warranted in certain situations. Do you need to send that email that just says thank you or I got your email? Have that conversation with other people. Do they need that assurance or not? It may just be something that clutters up their email. And then if you do that with them, they're likely to do that with you. So have a conversation with people that you email frequently to see what it is that they need. They may need that confirmation that you received their email, but oftentimes they don't need that. And at the same time, you can communicate whether or not you need that from them. This can drastically reduce the amount of emails that are coming in, especially if it's someone that you email every day. Also, don't send an email just because it's quick and convenient. Think about what you're asking or what you're saying in that email. Is it something that's really going to have a conversation that comes up? Then maybe you need to pick up the phone and call someone to get your answer and have it be a faster back and forth than it would have been in the emails. Now let's talk about using your subject line to the fullest. You have a lot of space on that subject line. When you're doing email marketing, you want to keep those shorter and to the point. But when you're communicating, especially inside of an office, try using that subject line to convey what you need the other person to do. For instance, in this email that you see here to Joe, I'm wanting to set up a Zoom meeting with him. And I'm pretty flexible about the time. I just need to know when he's available. So in my subject line, perhaps I want to indicate when I need an answer back or that this is something I need a response for. There's many different ways I can do this. Let's look at an example. One way I could word this is by saying, finding a time to meet via Zoom. Please reply Friday, 9/18. I'm being very specific about what this email is about and when I'd like to hear back from Joe. If I don't want to be so deadline specific with Joe, I can do something more like this that says, finding a time to meet via Zoom. When are you available? Please reply. This gives way more information in the subject line, and Joe is much more likely to open it, see if there's any additional information, or he can just hit reply and he knows exactly what you're looking for. Now let's use a different scenario where Joe is Susie's manager and I'm going to be meeting with Susie about a big project. In this case, Joe does not need to attend that meeting unless he wants to. So in the subject line, I'm using FYI only so that Joe knows this is not something he necessarily has to reply to. And I put specifically that I am meeting with Susie on Friday. And that way he knows what this email is about, and it makes it much faster for him to process his email. And then going forward, maybe he'll use those same tactics with you so that you can start to process your email faster. That's the whole point of this, is use your subject line, have that conversation with other people about what helps them process email faster, and they can ask you the same. The point of all of this is to convey as much information as you can through that subject line. You can see in this one, we have a draft of the Stewart proposal is attached. Please review and respond ASAP. This indicates that this is pretty important and you really do need to reply right away. The email body goes into more detail, but that subject line will grab Joe's attention and he is more likely to open the email and see what you need. By giving information and deadlines in the subject line, you're much more likely to get replies back and especially get them back in the time frame that you had asked. Whereas if that deadline is buried in the body of the email, that person may never know that that was an important email to them because they have just as much overflowing as you do. Our last tip today is about email newsletters and ads and making some smart choices around those. Let's start by talking about newsletters. You do not have to receive every newsletter that is out there about your business or about your hobby. You want to pick and choose the ones that make the biggest impact for you. What are the ones that you're excited to receive, the ones that you read every time and you don't ignore them? Start thinking about that. See how many you're receiving and how many you might be able to reduce. What I recommend to my clients is unsubscribing from all of those that you don't read very often and don't really make much of an impact for you, and see if you miss them. You can always go back and resubscribe. But right now, we want to get past the amount of flooding emails that are coming in. And one way to do that is by doing some unsubscribing, especially from newsletters, if that's something that you get a lot of. Another thing that I see a lot of in my clients' email accounts is ads, whether that is ads for programs that you've done in the past, or it's ads for companies, or it's ads for places that you shop. You don't necessarily need all of those things coming into your inbox. Perhaps some of them are important to you, and we'll talk in just a moment about what you can do with those, but really be serious about unsubscribing from the things that don't matter to you. And what I would say as a precaution when you're unsubscribing, if it's a company that you know you've worked with or that you know you signed up for their email list, then you can go to the email, scroll all the way to the bottom, and you should find a tiny little link that says unsubscribe. That is safe for companies that you're aware of and that you know were ones that you signed up for. If you find that you're getting emails from a company you don't recognize, then you should send those to your email program spam. That's the safer way to do it. Remember, the more of these things that you are subscribed to, whether it's ads or newsletters, the more you're taking away time from what really matters. Those emails where you need to process something, or the emails where the content is very valuable to you. You're taking more time away from those things, the more emails that you're receiving from what I like to call the fluff places, the things that aren't quite as important to you. Next week, we will be talking about how to take some of those things that are coming in, those newsletters, those ads, those less important things that you do want to keep. You don't want to unsubscribe from them, but have them automatically go into a folder for you. And this is true whether you're using an entire folder structure or you're just using a few folders and using your inbox for holding a lot of email. Either way, you can create folders for these newsletters or ads, and you can have your email program automatically move some of those emails over. That's using something called filters or rules, depending on what email program you have, and we'll talk about that next week. Here's a quick recap of what we covered today. We talked about setting limits for your email inbox, meaning that once you get close to that limit of scrolling or 25 or 50 emails or unread emails, once you get to that limit or you're getting close, set some extra time aside to spend on your email. Our second tip was email etiquette and using your subject line to the fullest. Again, this meant having conversations with the people that you email the most, finding out what do they need. Do they need that thank you? Do they need that confirmation that you received the email, or do they not care? And the same goes for you, communicating that to them. And those subject lines, use every inch of your subject line to convey the information that you're putting in the email, including any deadlines, action necessary, all of those different pieces. And our last tip was all about email newsletters and ads and making smart choices about what you're signing up for and deciding, are there a lot of these things that you don't need that you could unsubscribe from? And then from there, the things that are left that are a little more important, they probably aren't as important as those tasks that are coming through in email. So maybe considering watching the next video about using filters and rules to have those emails go straight into a folder. Have you had a light bulb moment from this training? If so, please let me know in the comments below. I love to see what people are getting out of these videos. You can also give the video a thumbs up if you really liked it, and you can also subscribe using the red button. This will let you know when future videos are posted. And if you know someone who could benefit from this information, please do send that along to them. Share the link. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.